I'm Chef Nathan Davis, head chef and owner of The Polished Chef, and today we're going to make my Wagyu meatballs with our homemade San Marzano tomato sauce. The first thing we want to do is start out by getting our tomato sauce going. So these are San Marzano tomatoes. The important thing is when you're buying these, you want to look for the DOP sticker on the side, which means that they're actually authentic from Italy San Marzano tomatoes. They are a little bit pricier than the other tomatoes, but the flavor is a little bit more richer, it's more intense. If you want to go with the plum tomatoes, that's perfectly fine as well. They're about half the cost. So we're going to put them into our sauce pot, 1 can. And then of course, get a little bit of water, get all that stuff off the sides. Want to make sure we really get every bit we can in there. All right, we got our tomatoes in the sauce pot. Now we're going to add 1/4 cup of minced garlic. Then we're gonna put this on the stove for 35 minutes and let it slowly simmer down. If it's working, we're gonna go ahead and start making our meatballs. That way the timing will come together perfectly. So the first thing we're gonna do for the meatballs is we're gonna have 1/2 cup of freshly shaved Parmesan cheese. We have our local Wagyu beef. This is 1/2 pound. And then we have some fresh ground mild Italian sausage. We're gonna use 1/2 pound of that. If you don't wanna use the sausage and you wanna be pork free, or if you just have ground beef that you want to use, you can just use 1 pound of ground beef. And we're going to add 1 tablespoon of fresh chopped parsley, 1 tablespoon of fresh chopped basil, and 1 tablespoon of fresh chopped oregano. And we're also going to dice 1 onion, and I'm going to show you guys exactly how I dice this onion. So for this recipe, we're just going to need half the onion. We'll cut the onion off both ends, cut it directly in half. We'll set part of it to the side. We're gonna peel that outer layer of skin off. And of course, if you wanna make a stock, you can always save your onion scraps for stocks later with your chicken bones, whatever you need. All right, so now that we got our onion halved, both ends cut off on the peel off, we're just gonna do a small dice for this one. So what we're gonna do is, at an angle, we're gonna slice it from one end to the other, coming towards the center of the onion at an angle. And then when we get to the center, we'll adjust and we'll make the angle going back the other direction. And of course, this Polished Chef knife makes it super easy. You can get these on our website, thepolishedchef.com. So now that we've worked our way all the way around the onion at the different angles, now we're gonna come back across the other direction and we're just gonna slowly slice. Of course, this beautiful Polished Chef knife available on our website, thepolishedchef.com, makes it super easy. And then when we get to the end, we have a little bit left, we want to take the remainder part and throw it right in our sauce. As you can see, our sauce is just slowly simmering. We want to let it simmer just like that for about 35 minutes. One of the important things when you're cooking is all about timing and efficiency. So a lot of times people will make the mistake of waiting to turn their pan on until they're actually ready to start cooking. But we know we're gonna have to start searing these meatballs off while our sauce is working. So while we got our mix going, before we start actually making our meatballs, we wanna go ahead and get our pan on the stove and turn it on medium so it starts coming up to temperature. We're just gonna wanna use a nice non-stick skillet for these meatballs and go ahead and get our oven going at 350. All right, we're gonna start mixing everything up in here really nice. And then of course, we always want to add a little bit of salt and pepper to everything that we cook. Salt to taste, depending on how much you would like. The Parmesan cheese does have a little saltiness to it, so you can always add, but you can't remove. Mixed throughout, and now we're just going to form it into balls about the size of a golf ball. We started these having an appetizer at The Polished Chef. It's a private in-home chef company, thepolishedchef.com, as our first course. One of our most popular items. We just serve 1 per person. But if I were making these for a dinner, I would do 2 per person for an entree portion. Okay, to sear our meatballs, we got our pan on medium-high heat. We're gonna add a little bit of olive oil and let that warm up for just a minute. You don't wanna add too much oil because the fat from the Wagyu is gonna render out. All right, now we got our pan nice and hot. As we go in, we just want to kind of rub them around in that olive oil, make sure we get a little bit of fat between the meatball and the pan. All right. And we're gonna brown these on all sides, and then we're gonna go in the oven at 350 for 15 minutes. Nice turn on all sides. Perfect sear, nice and brown. And then this is when we want to turn our pan down. Keep giving them a flip on all sides. All right, we're gonna give them our last flip, and then we're gonna go in the oven for 15 minutes. Now that we got our meatballs seared off on all sides, we're gonna go into the oven at 350 degrees on the middle rack for 15 minutes. All right, now that our sauce is cooked down for about 35 minutes, we're gonna go ahead and transfer it to our blender. We're gonna add in a handful of basil. Just pour those tomatoes right in there. We're gonna add about 1 tablespoon of red wine vinegar, just a little bit more acidity. I like to do that for the Wagyu meatballs because they're really rich and fatty, just to kind of help break through the fat a little bit more. We're gonna add a little bit of salt. And then drizzle in a little bit of olive oil. And then blend it all together. Just real quick, easy blend. That's it. I like my sauce a little chunky. If you want it a little bit finer, depending on what you're using it for. All right. And now that our sauce is ready, we're gonna pull our meatballs out of the oven. Meatballs coming out of the oven for 15 minutes. We're gonna let those cool for 5 minutes before we serve, and they'll finish cooking in the pan. Now we're gonna plate the meatballs just like we do at our events at thepolishedchef.com as our appetizer. A little bit of sauce on the bottom. Meatball right in the center. We're gonna shave a little bit of fresh Parmesan Reggiano cheese right on top. And then we're gonna garnish off with a little bit of fresh torn basil leaf. And that's it. That's our homemade Wagyu meatball with San Marzano tomato sauce and fresh shaved Parmesan Reggiano.